Hello, we are Team Apex, and today we're going to talk about our project, Apex Warriors, a first-person shooter mech game. From the beginning, Apex was about giving the player a sense of power, by giving them command over a very powerful machine. Although what the machine did and how it did it changed, the ideas of power and immersion were always present in our minds. The biggest steps came with the way we implemented the cockpit. Although originally very basic in design, it was always something we wanted to implement as more than simple decoration. Other smaller details were also included, like heavier steps for the player or the way the camera moves. But these decisions came with consequences. As immersion was a core part of the decision making, player feedback always had to be adjusted to fit into that immersion, making simple problems more complex, as we tried to look for ways to give the player the information it needs without breaking that mech feel that we were trying to build. Because of it, it always felt that we were a step behind the feedback. In the end, the concept of immersion meant that how the player felt and played were a top priority, and that affected all of our decision making in the future.
Hello, I'm Nicholas O'Keefe, and I will be talking about our player controller. What had once been a purposely slow and heavy mech found itself undergoing extreme changes in our third month. And by month 4 it had transformed into an extremely fast, habitually airborne mech that could combo jump through the air while firing at enemies and performing devastating ground pound attacks. This drastic change was the result of us deciding to change the genre of our game from mech simulation to a much more action-focused mech FPS. But while the player controller and many other features were able to successfully make this transition and are overall better for it, not everyone was so lucky. The AI specifically was unable to make this transition from simulation to action, and thanks to the complexity of the AI system already in place, changing the AI would be a long and difficult process. Instead of attempting this change, the AI was treated as a sunken cost, and as a team we decided to focus our efforts on features we believed to be of greater importance.
Hello, my name is Antonio Perez of Team Apex, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our levels and their design. So originally the game was planned as this open world free to explore game with missions spread around the level. With the creation of the AI and its cover based system, levels moved towards a more contained environment where the AI can move around more easily. From then on, levels in our game were created almost solely with the enemies in mind, and as a team we were focused on providing a setting where the enemies could flourish. While this decision helped move our enemies along and originally seemed like the right course of action, we didn't consider how quickly and drastically the player controller was going to change, and we didn't mold the levels with both the enemies and the player in mind. To that end, the levels ended up becoming narrow valleys and small-scaled encounters, where the players couldn't use the player controller's movement to its full potential. However, while the levels didn't match our player controller's ability for quick movement and fast-paced combat, the levels still provided a fun environment for the people playing our game. This came down to our decision to have destructible buildings that helped accentuate the fact that the player was in a mech, as well as the fact that the encounters were small and it forced the players to have to think strategically and continue moving, which provided an adrenaline-inducing experience.
Hello, my name is Mitchell Ford, and I will be talking about how our weapon system impacted our game. Currently, we have 4 unique weapons that will be available to the player. Additionally, each weapon has an alternate firing mode that changes the way that the weapon will be used. We used a combination of raycast and projectile-based weaponry to ensure that each weapon felt distinct in the role that it was created for. These weapons, combined with the advanced movement systems of the player, forms the bedrock of our game's moment-to-moment gameplay experience. However, due to the amount of time and the emphasis that we put into our weapons, we were forced to drastically cut back on our progression system. We'd initially planned for a total of 10 weapons. These weapons, and the upgrades for them, would be locked behind an experience point-based system, and could be unlocked after the successful completion of side objectives and boss fights. In the end, we decided to focus on the quality of our weapons instead of trying to cram in additional weapons or upgrades that did not serve a specific purpose. For future groups coming through Capstone, we recommend that the core vision of the game should be decided on before the end of the first month. At the very end of month 2, we went from a slow-paced simulation-style mech game to a much faster-paced first-person shooter. This forced the group to reevaluate our player controller, weapons, and level design. Time management is another crucial aspect of the Capstone experience. It was not uncommon for us to underestimate the amount of time that it would take to reach certain goals. This mismanagement of time and expectations made compiling our team's work together at the end of the week much more of a hassle than it needed to be. Finally, clear communication is imperative to ensure that your team not only continues to function, but delivers a cohesive gameplay experience by the time you finish your Capstone project.